The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was built to inspire awe. Its dome of crystal reflected the light of 100 stars, and representatives of dozens of alien species filled the circular rows of seats. For thousands of years, this place had been the center of order and diplomacy across the galaxy. On this day, however, silence ruled the hall. Every eye turned toward the humans. Ambassador Jonathan Hale stood straight in his dark uniform. His calm voice carried across the chamber. "We came to this council seeking cooperation. We offered trade, science, and unity. In return, we have been mocked, ignored, and bound by rules meant to keep us weak. Today, Earth withdraws." A wave of murmurs broke out. Tall insectoid envoys clicked their mandibles in disbelief. Amphibian diplomats rippled their skin in shock. For most of them, humanity was a young species, barely 2 centuries among the stars. No one expected them to walk away from the most powerful body in the galaxy. The council speaker, an elder being of shimmering silver, raised his voice. "Ambassador Hale, your people cannot survive alone. The council provides stability. It protects trade and peace." Hale's eyes hardened. "Stability? You forbid our colonies from defending themselves. You ban our technology as too dangerous, yet you use it in secret. You demand our ships patrol your borders while denying us a seat at the table. That is not stability. That is control." He paused, letting his words echo. "And Earth will no longer bow to it." With that, the human delegation turned and walked out. Their boots struck the polished floor in steady rhythm, and not a single one looked back. The doors closed behind them, leaving only silence in the chamber. For weeks afterward, the galaxy buzzed with disbelief. News networks replayed the moment of departure again and again. Commentators from 100 worlds speculated on Earth's fate. Some laughed openly, predicting the humans would beg to return within a decade. Others warned that humanity's stubbornness could lead to disaster. Among the council races, opinions divided sharply. The merchant guilds worried about trade routes, for humans had been skilled navigators and fierce protectors against pirates. The military species, proud and old, dismissed Earth's defiance as arrogance. "Let them go," said the reptilian Sith, their scaled tails lashing. "Without the council, their world will collapse." But on Earth itself, a different mood took hold. Across the blue planet and its growing colonies, people felt a fire kindling. For generations, they had accepted restrictions, told they were too reckless, too young, too dangerous. Now, unbound from the council's rules, they looked to the stars with new determination. In the great shipyards orbiting Luna, engineers whispered of new designs long kept hidden. On Mars, miners dug deeper for rare elements once banned from human use. Scientists in secret labs brought dusty prototypes back to life, no longer afraid of council inspectors shutting them down. Every part of humanity's scattered colonies seemed to hum with the same spirit. "We will prove them wrong." Still, the risk was real. The council controlled trade hubs and stargates. Without them, Earth would have to forge its own paths across the void. But instead of fear, challenge excited the human spirit. "We survived worse," they told themselves, remembering world wars, plagues, and centuries of struggle. "We will survive this too." Ambassador Hale, now back on Earth, addressed the United Earth Assembly. His words spread by broadcast to every colony and station. "We are not leaving the galaxy. We are claiming our place in it. For too long we bent under the weight of others' laws. Now we rise under our own." Applause thundered in the hall, echoed by cheers in domes on Mars, in floating cities above Venus, and in orbital habitats circling distant moons. Humanity was no longer a junior partner in a vast council. Humanity was on its own path. Far away in the chambers of the council, alien leaders watched these broadcasts with narrowed eyes. Some feared the humans' passion. Some laughed at it. But none could deny one truth: Earth had left, and no one knew what they were building in the silence that followed. The council waited for humanity to stumble. Yet behind the quiet walls of shipyards, laboratories, and secret colonies, a new destiny was being shaped. The galaxy had dismissed humans as fragile and impatient. Soon it would learn the price of underestimating them. The galaxy was restless. For decades, rumors about Earth's silence had spread like sparks across dry ground. Some believed the humans had collapsed in isolation, their colonies broken by pride. Others whispered that Earth was not weak, but waiting. It was on the edge of council space that the truth first revealed itself. The outpost of Dralos was a quiet station, orbiting a pale yellow star. Its job was simple: track trade ships, and watch for pirate activity. For years, the station's reports had been uneventful, but one night, the scanners lit up with readings beyond imagination. Lieutenant Varan, a young officer of the Valari, stared at the glowing screen. "This cannot be right," he whispered. The data showed hundreds, no thousands of objects moving together. Not scattered like pirates, not random like asteroids, but in perfect formation. He called his commander. They checked the signals again and again. The readings did not change. A fleet was advancing, vast and silent. "What ships are they?" the commander asked. His voice trembled. Varin magnified the scans. The shapes became clear. These were not alien ships. They were human. The report reached the council within hours. Panic spread through the chamber. Representatives shouted over one another, demanding answers. The Sith roared, their tails lashing. "Impossible. Humans could not build a fleet so large. They are bluffing." But the scans did not lie. Humanity had returned to the galaxy's stage, and it had returned with power no one had imagined. Council scouts sent to investigate never came back. Only fragments of their signals were recovered. Brief flashes of massive vessels, their hulls glowing with strange energy patterns. Then silence. The galaxy realized that whatever humanity had built, it was far beyond the Council's understanding. In distant systems, ordinary people felt both fear and hope. Farmers on remote colonies whispered that humans would bring safety again, driving away the pirates. Merchants prayed that Earth would reopen the trade routes. But military leaders saw only threat. 1,000 warships at the horizon meant one thing: humanity had the power to reshape the galaxy. Inside the Council, the debates grew frantic. Some demanded immediate war preparations. Others argued for diplomacy. Ambassador Thalek of the Valari spoke with urgency. "We underestimated them once. If we move against them now, we may not survive. We must talk to them before it is too late." But the Arathi remained proud. "They left us. They broke unity. Now they come back with weapons. This is not a friend returning. It is an enemy demanding tribute." While the Council argued, the fleet continued to advance. World after world reported sightings. From the gas giant stations near Savaris, miners swore they saw enormous human dreadnoughts passing in silence. From the icy moons of Kor, traders described the black silhouettes of carriers stretching across the stars. Everywhere the fleet went, it did not fire, it did not invade. It only moved calm and steady toward the Council's heart. Fear became unbearable. The Council called for emergency meetings, summoning every representative. The chamber overflowed with tension. Maps of the advancing fleet glowed across the central dome. "They march like a storm," one envoy muttered. "And storms do not ask permission." The Council speaker stood, his silver form trembling with unease. "We must decide. Do we prepare for war? Do we send envoys? Or do we wait and hope humanity reveals its purpose?" But even as they spoke, the reports kept coming. The fleet was no longer at the border. It was at the horizon of the Council's core worlds. From the great station of Thalor, witnesses described the sight. Hundreds of ships emerging from warp, their hulls marked with the blue and white emblems of Earth. They glowed with power fields unknown to alien science. They moved as one, disciplined and unstoppable. To the people watching from the station's windows, it was like seeing the ocean rise up and move toward them. 1,000 warships, 1,000 shadows blotting out the stars. When the first transmission came, the Council chamber fell silent. A human voice spoke, calm and firm. "The age of dismissal is over. The age of respect begins. No threats. No demands. Just a statement that echoed louder than any weapon." Across the galaxy, species froze. Some felt relief, others terror. But all of them understood one truth. Earth had not collapsed. Earth had risen. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy faced a power that could not be ignored. The horizon darkened not with invasion, but with the return of a people who had been underestimated for far too long. And in that moment, every leader, every soldier, and every citizen of the Council realized humanity had come back, and nothing would ever be the same again. The horizon of the Council's central systems was no longer empty. Hundreds of human ships glimmered against the backdrop of stars. Carriers, dreadnoughts, and fast strike vessels moved in precise formation, stretching across light minutes of space. The Council's fleet scrambled, but they were unprepared for what they faced. For decades, humanity had been absent, silent, and mysterious. No one knew the scale of their preparations, and now it was undeniable. The humans had returned. Ambassador Jonathan Hale, speaking from the bridge of the flagship Sol Invictus, watched the council systems come into view. He had spent years planning this moment. Every ship, every crew, every strategy had been perfected in secret. The humans did not come to strike first. They came to show their strength, to demand recognition, and to reshape the galaxy's balance. Back in the council chamber, panic spread. Species that once mocked Earth's departure now whispered in terror. Military leaders barked orders, trying to coordinate defenses that would never match the human scale. Scientists analyzed the ship's energy shields, weapons, and formations, but the more they studied, the less they understood. Humanity's technology had advanced far beyond the Council's expectations. From the observation platforms on Thaler Station, citizens stared in awe. Entire families gathered to watch the sky fill with human vessels. Children whispered, "Are they going to fight?" Older beings, veterans of centuries of Council wars, shook their heads. "No," they said. "They are here to remind us that we underestimated them." A transmission came, reaching every corner of the Council space. The holographic figure of a human commander appeared, calm and authoritative. His uniform was simple, his expression firm. "The age of dismissal is over," he said. "The age of respect begins. No threat, no aggression. Just words that carried the weight of centuries of preparation and silent power." Still, the Council did not trust silence. Fleets moved to intercept, sending squadrons toward the human armada. But the humans did not fire. They held formation, their discipline unbroken. In their calm, others saw their confidence. A confidence born not from arrogance, but from capability. Throughout the Council worlds, whispers grew into conversations. Traders began to hope that the humans' return would restore safe trade routes. Scientists speculated about new technologies and energy sources that might be shared. Farmers and miners thought about the protection that human fleets could bring. For every fear, there was also awe. Humanity had returned not to conquer, but to command respect. In the council chamber, arguments raged. "We cannot allow them to dictate terms," shouted the Scythe general. "They left us. They broke our laws." "They did not come to fight," said Ambassador Thalek, his voice rising above the chaos. "They came to show the galaxy that humans are no longer small. They demand recognition. We must negotiate before we make a mistake that we cannot undo." The humans continued their approach, moving like a tidal wave of stars. Every ship was a symbol of preparation, unity, and determination. For decades, Earth had remained silent, building strength in secret. Now the galaxy could see it. Colonies that had once relied on human protection sent messages of support. Even those who had mocked the humans' absence were beginning to reconsider. Every report, every scan, every observation confirmed a single truth. Humanity was ready to reclaim its place among the stars. As the first human vessels crossed the orbit of the Council's core world, the impact was more than military. It was psychological. Citizens of all species stopped what they were doing to watch. The silence of Earth had ended. The humans had returned, and they had returned with power and purpose. The council speaker finally rose, his form gleaming in silver light. "We face a new era," he said softly. "Not one of conquest, but of reckoning. Humanity reminds us that they cannot be ignored, that their absence left a gap we never should have assumed they could not fill." In that moment, fleets halted, negotiations paused, and all eyes turned to the horizon. Humanity had returned not as aggressors, but as equals who demanded respect. They came not with chaos, but with order forged in centuries of preparation. On the bridge of Sol Invictus, Ambassador Hale looked over his fleet. Each ship carried thousands of humans, each crew trained to perfection, each command calculated with precision. He allowed himself a small smile. "Let them see who we are," he said. "Let them understand that humans do not vanish. Humans do not beg. Humans prepare. And when the time comes, humans return." And across the galaxy, every species realized that this was not the beginning of war. It was the beginning of a new balance. Humanity had returned. The Council would never underestimate them again. The horizon darkened with human ships, not in threat but in awe-inspiring power, signaling a new era where humans were no longer ignored, and their presence demanded respect. the human fleet had reached the heart of the Council's core systems. 1,000 ships, vast and disciplined, floated like silent guardians between the stars. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy watched humanity not as a minor power, but as a force that could not be ignored. On the bridge of the flagship Sol Invictus, Ambassador Jonathan Hale studied the Council worlds below. His eyes scanned the vast map of star systems, trade routes, and alien capitals. Every fleet, every colony, every outpost that had once relied on the Council's fragile control now saw humans as a force of unity, strength, and determination. Hale spoke into the comms, his voice calm and firm. "We do not come as conquerors. We do not seek to destroy. We come to restore balance and to claim our rightful place among the stars." Across the Council chambers, debates raged. Some species refused to bow. The Sith generals demanded that their fleet strike immediately. The Orathi whispered threats, but the truth could not be denied. Humanity had built a fleet and technology that no single Council member could match. The very presence of humans forced respect. In private meetings, smaller systems that had felt abandoned now approached human envoys. Merchants, miners, and explorers sought agreements, trade, and protection. Humans were not just a military force, they were a symbol of resilience, innovation, and courage. The Council finally convened a historic summit. The speaker, his silver form flickering with age and tension, addressed the hall. "Humanity has returned not with war but with purpose. They remind us that our unity is fragile and our authority incomplete. We must recognize their strength and work with them, not against them." Hale entered the summit chamber. He was greeted with silence and cautious glances. Every eye measured the humans, remembering how they had once been dismissed and how far they had come. He raised his hand in greeting. "The galaxy assumed we were weak," Hale said. "They assumed our absence meant defeat. But humanity survives because we do not yield to fear or disregard. We prepare, we endure, and we rise. Today we are here not to conquer, but to ensure that every species respects the value and power of humans." There was no anger in his voice, only calm authority. And in that moment, the galaxy understood something it had never truly accepted. Humans were unbreakable, not through sheer strength alone, but through persistence, intelligence, and the willingness to never give up. In the weeks that followed, trade routes reopened under human supervision. Pirates who had once terrorized the outskirts found themselves blocked by fleets that moved faster and struck harder than anyone had imagined. Small systems once abandoned were stabilized. Technology and resources, carefully shared, improved life across the galaxy. The Council learned to negotiate with humans as equals. Earth did not seek control over the galaxy, but it would not tolerate dismissal or exploitation. Every treaty, every agreement reflected a balance that had never existed before. Hale walked the corridors of the flagship, observing crews of all backgrounds. Engineers, pilots, and soldiers moved with confidence, knowing that their work had changed the galaxy. They had done what many had thought impossible. They had returned from silence and proved that humans could not be ignored. Across alien worlds, historians began recording this century as a turning point. A small species that had once been dismissed had risen to a level of influence and respect that no other had achieved so quickly. They did not arrive with destruction, but with a demonstration of strength, patience, and unity. And yet the humans did not celebrate their power. Instead, they continued to prepare, train, and innovate. They knew that the galaxy was vast and unpredictable. Respect had been earned, but it could not be taken for granted. In the Council chamber, the speaker finally spoke words that would be remembered for generations. "Humanity has shown us what it means to endure, to rise above dismissal, and to demand respect without threat. Let this be a lesson to all. Underestimate humans and you do so at your peril." Hale returned to the bridge of Sol Invictus and looked at the stars. The fleet stretched in every direction, a testament to human innovation and determination. He allowed himself a small smile, knowing that the galaxy had finally seen the truth. Humans had left. Humans had returned. And now humanity's place among the stars was clear, not as conquerors, not as subservients, but as a force to be reckoned with, a species that could endure, adapt, and rise above any challenge. From the observation decks of alien worlds to the farthest colonies in human space, the same thought echoed: humans do not vanish, humans do not beg, humans prepare. And when the time comes, humans return, stronger than anyone could imagine. The galaxy had entered a new era, the era of balance, respect, and recognition, and at its heart were humans, proud, prepared, and unyielding. The council chamber, once filled with the confidence of 1,000 worlds, now felt fragile. Since Earth's withdrawal, cracks had begun to appear in the unity that the council had long claimed to represent. For centuries, humans had served as mediators, soldiers, and explorers. They had a habit of stepping into problems others avoided. Now, without them, the galaxy was discovering just how much weight humanity had carried on its shoulders. At first, many council members dismissed the absence. The reptilian Sith declared that one noisy species does not change the tides of history. The crystalline Orathi agreed, insisting that humans had been a disruption more than an asset. But within a decade, the cracks turned into deep rifts. Pirates began to strike at border systems. Without human patrols, their attacks grew bold. They raided merchant fleets, destroyed convoys, and claimed entire asteroid belts. Some council worlds begged for more protection, but the fleets were stretched too thin. Trade routes faltered. Humans had been skilled navigators, daring to chart unstable wormholes and dangerous passages. Without them, merchants stuck to safer paths which were crowded and costly. Goods that had once flowed freely across the stars now slowed to a crawl. Prices rose. Colonies starved. The council tried to respond with new laws, but old rivalries resurfaced. The amphibian Valari accused the Scythe of hoarding ships. The Sith accused the Orathi of refusing to share resources. Meetings turned into shouting matches. The chamber that once echoed with diplomacy now shook with anger and blame. Ambassador Thelic of the Valari finally spoke what many had begun to feel. When humans were here, they pushed us to act. They were reckless, yes, but they moved us forward. Without them, we are paralyzed, others scoffed. The Orathi, shining with pale light, responded coldly. Humans left because they could not follow order. They wanted chaos. Are you asking us to beg them back? But in the shadows, whispers grew. Small systems that once traded heavily with Earth began to murmur about the old days. Independent captains, once proud to work alongside human fleets, now spoke of the strange silence from Sol. Reports trickled in. Council scouts swore they saw vast construction sites hidden behind human borders. Strange signals were detected, but no one could explain them. Some claimed Earth was collapsing under the weight of its pride. Others warned it was building something too dangerous to imagine. Meanwhile, tension spread among the common people of the galaxy. Merchants cursed the council for letting Earth go. Farmers on distant colonies wondered why their shipments no longer arrived. Pirates declared themselves kings of lawless zones, daring to challenge council fleets openly. The council speaker, weary and old, tried to restore calm. We are still the center of order. Humanity's absence is a storm, yes, but storms pass. His words, however, rang hollow. Every year, more systems slipped into unrest. On the mining world of Erebos, riots broke out after months of shortages. The council sent soldiers, but the unrest only grew. On the trade station of Mur, two alien factions fought openly over control of docking bays once managed by human crews. The council could not stop them. Behind closed doors, some leaders admitted what they would never say in public. Earth had been the glue that held their fragile order together. Not because humans were the strongest or the oldest, but because they were the most restless. They hated stagnation. They pushed everyone around them to move, to adapt, to fight against collapse. Without them, the council was slowly sinking into its own weight. And yet, even as regret stirred, pride held firm. The Orathi continued to sneer. The Scythe boasted that they could replace humans easily. Others were too frightened to speak, fearing they might appear weak. But deep in the border worlds, where council influence was weakest, stories began to spread. Traders claimed to have seen giant human ships moving in the dark, silent and powerful. Miners swore they sold rare metals to human agents who paid in strange new currencies. Explorers whispered of colonies that glowed with energy fields no one could explain. The council tried to dismiss these stories as myths, but the whispers refused to die. As the decades passed, more cracks spread. Small civilizations broke away from council oversight. Pirates grew into empires of their own. Trade slowed almost to a stop. The council was still powerful, but its foundation was shaking, and all the while Earth remained silent. No diplomats, no traders, no envoys, just a quiet, watchful absence. It was this silence that frightened the wisest among the council. A collapse makes noise, but preparation makes none. And humanity's silence was starting to sound less like weakness and more like a storm gathering beyond the horizon. The Council had thought Earth irrelevant. Now they were beginning to wonder if they had made the greatest mistake in galactic history